podcast where truth moves faster than a Holstein calf. No waiting on some pretty page. We're charting your ground in the digital age. From genomic codes to row-out facts, we cut through the noise, no holding back. Not your daddy's dairy news tonight. We're sparking debates with every insight. The ring's not where the real fight's at. It's in the data, in the channel chat. From pasture to processor to your morning cup, we're raising the stakes. Try and get ahead of herd. Yeah! Where the future's more than just a word. Ahead of herd. Come on! The bullvine's calling, let your voice be heard.
Welcome to the Bullvine Podcast, where we tackle the dairy industry's biggest challenges with bold insights and evidence-based solutions. If you're tired of conventional wisdom that's keeping your operation from reaching its full potential, you're in the right place. Today, we're diving deep into what might be the most overlooked profit center on your dairy, your pre-weaning calf program. We're talking about research that shows how those first 60 days can literally add over 1,000 pounds of milk per lactation to each animal. That's not hype. That's hard science from Cornell University and industry leaders who've cracked the code on maximizing calf performance. If you've ever wondered why some operations consistently outperform others, or if you're ready to turn your calf barn into a profit engine instead of a cost center, this episode is going to change how you think about early calf management. Let's get started.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something really foundational for your dairy's bottom line. That's the often underestimated power of early calf performance. We've got a really interesting article here from the Bullvine that digs into the science, and we're going to pull out the key insights for you. Our mission today: really unpack the research in this piece. It argues pretty convincingly that those first 60 days, they're not just about raising a calf. They're about building a future profit engine for your operation. Might challenge how you think about things, but the data's strong. Let's get into it.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating looking at this Bullvine article is how clearly it draws that line. That line between early calf performance, specifically average daily gain, or ADG, before weaning and, actual dollars and cents years later. It really shifts the view, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Calf raising isn't just a cost. It's maybe one of the smartest investments you can make right now.
Okay, let's unpack that connection then. The article puts pre-weaning ADG right out front, calls it the key driver for milk production, for profit. That's a pretty bold claim. What's the research actually showing?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. The numbers they cite, particularly from some long-term work out of Cornell, they show this incredible relationship. Get this. For every 1 kilogram increase in pre-weaning ADG, that's about 2.2 pounds. For us, those heifers produced an extra 850 kilograms of milk in their first lactation alone.
Wow. Hang on, let me translate that. So for every pound of extra daily gain you get before weaning, you're looking at, roughly 1,870 pounds more milk in that first lactation.
That's the number. It's pretty staggering when you think about it that way.
Incredible.
Yeah. And the Bullvine article pointed out something else interesting. In commercial farm settings, the effects seemed even stronger. They mentioned studies showing over 1,100 pounds more milk per pound of pre-weaning ADG. So the real-world impact, it might be even bigger than the controlled studies.
And it's not just the milk check, is it? The article mentioned other economic benefits, too.
Oh, absolutely. Calves that grow faster, they hit breeding size sooner, right? So you can get them bred earlier. That shortens the time to first calving, cuts down that whole non-productive rearing period, which, costs real money every day. Plus, the research is clear. These faster growing, healthier calves, they're much, much less likely to be culled before they even get a chance to milk and pay you back.
Okay, so just how much sway does this early period have? What percentage of our future production is kind of locked in early?
The Cornell research cited. It concluded that pre-weaning ADG alone explained about 22% of the variation in first lactation milk yield. Think about that. Almost a quarter of her production potential. Heavily influenced, maybe even set, before she's even weaned.
22%. Wow, that's huge for just, 60 days?
Exactly. It really highlights the leverage you have in that early phase.
So what should farmers be shooting for then? What's the target ADG according to this research?
Well, the NAHMS Dairy study findings mentioned in the article, they suggest that excellent growth means exceeding 1.8 pounds per day. That's about 0.82 kilos, falling consistently below that. The data indicates they're just much less likely to hit their genetic ceiling for milk.
1.8 pounds a day.
Yeah. And it really raises a key question, doesn't it? Are you actually tracking your calves' ADG, weighing them? Because, if you don't have that number, it's really hard to know if you're hitting that target or where you might need to improve. You can't manage what you don't measure.
Very true. Okay, let's shift to the foundation. If you want that growth, the Bullvine article, like pretty much everyone, points straight to colostrum, calls it liquid gold.
And rightly so. The article makes a great point. Good colostrum management is not just about immunity, though that's obviously critical. It actually helps program metabolic pathways, growth pathways, things that affect that calf's health and productivity for her entire life. It's like setting the defaults for future performance.
And with colostrum, timing is,
Well,
it's everything, right?
absolutely critical. The research they discuss hammers this home. 1 gallon of quality colostrum within the first 4 hours. That absorption window closes fast.
1 gallon, 4 hours.
And then they recommend following up. Another 2 quarts at the second feeding, just to really make sure you've established that strong base.
Okay, but it's not just volume. Quality matters too. The article mentions Brix testing.
Exactly. You can give the volume, but if the quality isn't there.
Yeah.
So measuring Brix with a refractometer is key. The standard you're shooting for, based on the research, is at least 22-23%. That tells you about the concentration of those vital immunoglobulins.
Higher Brix, more protective power.
Precisely. More antibodies, more growth factors. And interestingly, the article even cited a study where giving a supplemental colostrum feeding, like 12 to 16 hours later, actually improved serum protein levels in the calves.
So better transfer even later on?
Yeah, suggesting maybe that window isn't quite as hard closed as we sometimes think, or that topping them up helps. Point is, healthier calves have more energy to put towards growth, not fighting off bugs.
And there was some really intriguing stuff in there about colostrum maybe doing more than just prevention.
Yes, this is quite exciting. There's emerging evidence cited in the article that suggests colostrum might play a dual role, not as preventing scours, but potentially acting as a treatment too, which could, help reduce antibiotic use.
A treatment? How so?
Well, think about what's in it. Over 100 times the antibodies of regular milk, sure, but also vitamins, minerals, bioactive compounds, things like lactoferrin, oligosaccharides. These components can actively fight pathogens, reduce inflammation in the gut, support beneficial bacteria. So it's got this therapeutic potential built right in, the tool you already have on farm.
That's fascinating. Okay, but even with perfect colostrum, calves get sick. And the article points to scours and respiratory disease as major roadblocks to that ADG.
Oh, they're huge profit killers. The numbers cited are pretty stark. Scours accounts for something like 56% of illness before weaning, and worse, 32% of deaths.
Almost a third of deaths from scours.
Wow.
And even if they survive, the impact lingers.
It absolutely does. That's a crucial point the article makes. The long-term cost is significant. Research shows heifers that had scours early on, they gained about 50 grams less per day throughout their entire growing period.
50 grams less every day?
Yeah, and then about 10% lower milk in their first lactation. And they're 3 times more likely to calve after 30 months old. Think about the cost of feeding that heifer for extra months with no return.
Ouch. Okay, and what about antibiotics for scours? The article had some thoughts there.
It did. It noted that in the U.S., something like 75% of scours cases get antibiotics. But the concern is many cases aren't bacterial. They're viral or protozoal, like crypto. So the antibiotics aren't hitting the cause.
Right.
And meanwhile, they can mess with the calf's gut microbiome, which might impact digestion and growth later on.
But there is a positive note, too.
Yes. Again, pointing back to colostrum, a study mentioned showed that adding dried colostrum to milk replacer cut the need for antibiotic treatments by more than half. So another potential benefit there.
Okay. The other big one was respiratory disease, the silent profit killer.
Yes, silent because you might not see dramatic signs, but it's dragging down performance. The article highlighted studies showing just how common lung consolidation, basically lung damage, is, even subclinically. And calves with uncured or chronic pneumonia, their ADG tanks compared to healthy pen mates. We're talking like 930 grams a day versus over 1,100. Big difference.
And if they come in with lung issues already, they're kind of set up for failure.
That's what the data suggests. One study showed they were over 4 times more likely to end up with chronic pneumonia later, and their starting ADG was lower too.
So management right at arrival or maybe sourcing becomes critical.
Exactly. And the article mentioned tools that can help, like using quick thoracic ultrasonography, QTUS, to screen calves. Find those subclinical lung issues early, intervene proactively before that growth potential is just gone. Protecting lung health is absolutely vital for hitting those ADG targets.
Okay, so we've covered colostrum, we've covered battling disease. What about the day-to-day? The practical feeding and management stuff the article suggests for really boosting that ADG.
Right, the nuts and bolts. Precision feeding is a big one. The research is really clear here. Calves need way more than just maintenance calories if you want that kind of growth. The article recommends aiming for levels like 1 gallon twice daily, or maybe 3 quarts 3 times a day, right from day 2. You've got to fuel the growth, not just keep them alive.
And does what you feed make a difference? Whole milk versus replacer?
It seems to, yeah. The bovine article discussed findings where calves on whole milk gain about 0.1 kilos, or that's 0.22 pounds more per day compared to standard replacer.
Okay. Likely the higher fat, higher solids.
That's the thinking. Just more nutrient dense. Now, if you are using a replacer, the protein level is really critical according to the article.
Yeah.
The research suggests aiming higher, like 25% protein or even more, those standard 20% protein replacers. They just don't support that optimal growth rate as well, even if you feed the same volume.
Good point. So higher protein if using replacer. What else?
Pasteurization. Even for whole milk, it provides a small but measurable ADG boost, about 0.03 kilos or 0.066 pounds per day, according to the data cited.
Interesting. And what about the environment? The calf housing, bedding? Does that stuff actually impact gain?
It absolutely does. It's easy to overlook, but the environment plays a real role in growth efficiency. Remember that NAHMS study they mentioned? It showed bedding type mattered. Calves on straw actually had better ADG than calves on sand or no bedding.
Huh. Straw wins?
Seems so. And temperature's massive, especially in colder climates or during winter. Calves burn a lot of energy just staying warm. If you don't increase their feed intake to compensate, where does that energy come from?
Comes from potential growth.
Exactly. It gets diverted away from ADG. So adjusting feed for temperature is crucial.
And consistency. That seemed to pop up a few times.
Oh, completely vital. Consistency is king with calves. Same feeding times, same milk temperature, same concentration every single time. It reduces stress, improves digestion, cuts down on upsets. The article really emphasized that having and following standardized protocols for everything, it really pays off in hitting those growth goals consistently.
Okay, so pulling this all together, this deep dive into the bovine article, it makes it crystal clear. Those first 60 days, they're not just a waiting period, they're absolutely foundational.
The evidence really stacks up, doesn't it? When you approach calf raising strategically, using this kind of research, it stops being just a cost line item. It really becomes one of your dairy's most powerful ways to drive future profit.
Let's just quickly bullet point those key takeaways, again, based on this bovine article, things for you to really keep front of mind.
Okay, number 1. Higher pre-weaning ADG directly translates to more milk, potentially over 1,100 pounds more in first lactation for every pound of gain. That's huge leverage. 2, colostrum, non-negotiable. Focus relentlessly on the 4 Qs. Quality, over 22-23% bricks. Quantity, 1 gallon plus 2 quarts, quickly, within 4 hours. And maybe squeaky clean feeding equipment. It sets the stage for immunity and growth programming. 3, feed for growth, not just maintenance. Higher volumes, like 1 gallon, twice daily. Consider whole milk or bump up that replacer protein over 25%. And crucially, adjust for cold stress. Give them the fuel they need. 4, health is wealth. Scours and pneumonia are thieves. They steal ADG and future performance. Proactive monitoring, good hygiene, and maybe exploring those colostrum-based supports to reduce impact and antibiotic reliance. And 5, invest early, profit long-term. The goal, double birth weight by weaning. That means hitting that 1.5 to 1.8 pound ADG target. And you got to track it to know if you're getting there.
That's a fantastic summary. A real roadmap pulled straight from the research analyzed in that bovine article gives you concrete things to look at on your own operation. And you can find more great stuff like this over at www.thebovine.com.
Definitely. And remember, applying these strategies, it's not just about healthier calves today. It's about setting up your whole herd, your whole business for better efficiency, lower replacement costs, and ultimately better profitability down the line.
So we'll leave you with this thought based on everything we've unpacked today from the bovine article. Knowing how much that early ADG impacts your future revenue. What's one specific thing in your calf program right now? Maybe it's colostrum timing. Maybe it's feed volume. Maybe it's weighing calves more often. Maybe it's bedding management in the cold. What's one thing you could realistically adjust, maybe even starting this week, to better capture that incredible potential? We really hope this deep dive has given you some valuable perspective, some practical ideas to take back to the farm, and help you build that future profit engine, one healthy, fast-growing calf at a time.
That's a wrap on today's deep dive into the million-dollar investment sitting right in your calf barn. The research is crystal clear. What happens in those first 60 days determines whether you're building future profit or just raising expensive pets. Here's your action plan. Start measuring ADG on every calf. Get your colostrum protocol dialed in. And remember, doubling birth weight by weaning isn't just a nice goal. It's your ticket to animals that produce over 1,000 pounds more milk per lactation. Want the full breakdown with all the research, citations, and implementation strategies we discussed today? Head over to www.thebullvine.com. That's THEBULLVINE.com. You'll find this episode's show notes, plus hundreds of articles challenging conventional dairy wisdom with the data to back it up. Thanks for listening to the Bullvine Podcast, and remember, in this industry, the operations that question everything are the ones that profit from everything. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries and demanding better from your business. The Bullvine, where dairy meets disruption.